What's up, guys? It's the real main event, the Rogue Soldier, the essential John L. Crossfire.
And I'm Mrs Crossfire.
And once again, you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation. Shakalaka-laka.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 109 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am your host, the essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And today we have a very, very, very fun conversation. We've actually just gotten off the phone to this gentleman. I thought this conversation was going to go to the 2-hour distance because some of our conversations lately have just gone really well. But this guy was very well spoken. He had everything basically at his wrestling brain the moment we asked the questions, and he even indirectly set up a bunch of segues for us and actually made our job easier. So we appreciate that. But of course, you'll see it in the description. You'll see it in the thumbnail. We are talking to MC Michael Lee. Of course, I got to feel like we're going to have to do some kind of wrestling family tree here and see if there's any branches that connect with Nova Lee. Maybe we should have almost made that the song of the week. For a joke, sure. But no, it was a very fun conversation. Basically, we talk about the scene in Perth, and namely NHPW, and there's a little bit of EPW talk in there as well. But just basically setting up, Michael's story and what he loves, and his time working with OPW. There's throughout this entire conversation from start to finish. I'm tripping on my words. My apologies, Michael Lee. I think that second coffee just kicked in during this intro. But throughout this entire conversation, from start right up to the very end, we have a bit of fun. He gives Miss Nova Lee and just wrestling announcers.
Really
and I myself, obviously at ICW, am half commentator, half ring announcer, and I'd like to think I've done a halfway decent job myself. But even myself, who wouldn't consider myself to be a ring announcer per se, very much enjoyed the feedback and will be taking that on board for when I do have to do it on the off chance every now and then. But even just for my commentary, there was a lot of stuff that he said that I feel I can use. But we're ranting, we're rambling. We want to get into this conversation. We don't want to go 2 hours just with the intro and outro. But Miss Nova Lee, do you want to do your best? Because you're going to hear it in this actual conversation as well. But do you want to announce to us the song and match of the week?
Alrighty. So the song of the week is Afterglow by In Heart's Wake. And the match of the week is
Tommy Knight versus Shelton Benjamin from Bret Hart's Australian Stampede 2024. As always, we picked one. Miss Crossfire, aka Nova Lee, picked Afterglow by In Heart's Wake because on this show we had a dream match. That term gets thrown around a lot these days, but honestly, Robbie Eagles, Kushida, two great high flyers, two great technical wrestlers, strong style matchup. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I almost actually made that the match of the week before you made this the song of the week. So I'm glad that I didn't do that and double up on the Robbie Eagles, because look, we all mark out for Robbie Eagles, but I don't want to just spend the whole episode marking about Robbie Eagles. So the match of the week was Big Tommy versus Shelton Benjamin. Now originally this was meant to be Slex versus Shelton, and I was so excited, and I'm really sad that Slex is injured, and I hope they do revisit that. But Tommy Knight has been on the rise for a handful of years now. So to see someone like him, get that opportunity, basically, unfortunately, Slex is out. The old adage in wrestling is you need an equal or greater replacement. Mm-hmm. Tommy got in there. Him and Shelton had a great match. Did a great job. It's actually Shelton's first match post WWE, I believe. So, again, originally Slex was meant to get, I don't know, but Tommy Knight by pure circumstance in that moment, in those shoes. So kudos to him. But, just fantastic match, fantastic show. I enjoyed as a whole, I enjoyed both shows, but as a whole, I think I actually enjoyed the Her show just a little bit more, like the six-way, like the six-pack challenge or the scramble, whatever you want to call it, for the number one contendership, which was won by Tali, that was chef's kiss. All the women in that match, great job of showcasing their talent and showing what Australia has to offer. Of course, we had Erica Reed versus Lizzie Evo. I'm not super familiar. I'm not going to lie. I'm not super familiar with Lizzie Evo, but it was a really good match. And, of course, she took the Widow's Peak from Victoria, a.k.a. Lisa Marie Veron, after the match, which was, again, chef's kiss. Got the nostalgia running. But that main event with Delta and Jordan Grace. I almost made that the match of the week as well, but then I was like, no, I still wanted to tie it in with this show, seeing as how there was 2 ring announcers on this, Australian Stampede show, and one of them obviously was Michael Lee, and we give the other one, I've already forgotten his name, I'm so sorry, but we do give him a shout out in this conversation with Michael Lee. But I think, In Heart's Wake, Afterglow, or Afterglow by In Heart's Wake, and then Tommy Knight versus Shelton Benjamin from Bret Hart's Australian Stampede 2024 from OPW, a song and match of the week respectively. But I think, Miss Novalee, I think we don't want to ramble too long. I think if we can put our hands together and get you to actually announce the announcer himself, Michael Lee, and set up this episode.
From Perth, Western Australia, the people's announcer, Michael Lee!
The people's announcer. Hell yeah. Michael Lee, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with MC Michael Lee, and of course we are joined by Nova Lee as well. I feel kind of like outnumbered here. It's just some sort of wrestling has more than one royal family thing going on. Like I don't know what's happening right now, but it's 7 p.m. your time, I believe, as we record this over in Perth. So far away from all of us. In the interest of fairness, I'm about 10 minutes late to this, but hey, DPC, when he listens to this, will get a kick out of that, because I'd never been late to any of our YouTube reactions, and then 4 weeks in a row I was late to a video after being late one time. But we got there, and I do apologize, because I've been saying to you, and I was sitting there trying to work it out as we were going through our notes, I think it's been about a year, if not a year and a half, of me saying, yeah, man, I'm going to have you on in the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to have you on in the next couple of weeks. And life just, for me, it's my health. For you, it's just that you seem to be the busiest man in Australian professional wrestling, and you're flying here, there, and
that's one of the goals, yeah.
But man, I'm so sorry. I've been telling you, what are you doing like next week or 2 weeks from now? And it's just, finally we're here.
It's all good. Like I always want to make sure whenever I do interviews that I have a few stories to tell. So I think we've accrued enough after the times that we said we're going to do this. So yeah, I'm ready.
But I because it's your first time on the pod, I have 5 core questions that I always ask for first time guests, I guess. I hate saying that. Like, it's a conversation. It's not an interview. I'm not a professional, but no, like I always have 5 core questions, and I call them the core 5. So originally in professional wrestling, and then obviously we'll just sprinkle some questions in between those 5. But the first question I always ask when someone's on the show for the first time, it's very simple. I feel like it's my favorite icebreaker, to be honest, and that's just, what was your earliest wrestling memory, Michael?
Earliest wrestling memory was SmackDown leading up to No Mercy 2003. Just one of my friends in my neighborhood growing up introduced me to a VHS of SmackDown, and it was the Vince McMahon and Stephanie feud. And, oh, God, just watching all that and realizing that there was this abundance of wrestling at my local video store. I had the Blockbuster and the Civic videos. Like, I had quite a few all around me, and really just amazed, confused, befuddled, and it kind of started a lifelong passion.
Okay, that's very much how mine started. Like I started watching wrestling originally because like my dad was into it, and that was like kind of the only way we connected. But it was the same thing. We had we didn't have Blockbuster where I was from, but we had Video 2000, which unfortunately didn't last very long. But we had Civic Video and Video Easy, and I swear between the two of them, I probably rented just about every single wrestling DVD that they both had. Well, not even just DVDs, like VHSs. Like I had VHS upon VHS of just random WWF. And then the early E pay-per-views, and then like the compilations, and then even I think it was Civic Video in about it was probably about 2008. So it was very close to when they were kind of starting to dwindle. But randomly, like this new guy took over, and all of like these US indies like DVDs showed up on the shelf, and I was just like, oh my God, like what is this? There's other stuff other than WWE or, F. And then my buddy's like, hey, you should see TNA. Like the old video store, man. Like I think all of my wrestling friends at this point make the same joke of like when it's the WWE Network. It's like, this used to be our WWE Network. And I just get so I'm sorry, I'm like ranting, and it's your episode. But I just
No,
get
no, it was the place to be, wasn't it? It's hard to explain to people.
Like,
at
this so nostalgic, man.
Yeah.
But at what point, like from like this will jump all over the place, just because both co-hosts here are ADHD as hell. But at what point from discovering wrestling, Michael, did you decide that you wanted to be in the wrestling business, and at what point did you then come to realization that Australian professional wrestling existed?
Oh, it's a bit of a long one. So I kind of knew about Australian wrestling, but I didn't quite. It was in front of me, but I didn't really comprehend what was going on. So I started volunteering at the pop culture conventions, your Oz Comic Cons, your Supernovas.
Oh,
I've been doing that for about 10 years now. And for Supernova, whenever they have an event on, the AWF would go around with Supernova. And me, the genius that I am, I would just think, oh, cool, there's wrestling over East. They come here to Perth, and then they just bugger off back home. And it never really stuck in my brain that, oh, no, there's actual wrestling in WA or in Australia in general. And it wasn't until, I'm going to say, the New Japan tour of Australia in 2018.
Oh,
where,
excellent, yes.
Yeah, people were handing out flyers. Like, I still remember Cody Rhodes versus Will Ospreay versus Robbie Eagles. That just seared in my brain. It was a phenomenal time.
See, now I feel ripped off because I got a I think it was a 10-man tag that Cody was a part of and Kenny were a part of, and now I feel ripped off now.
I still feel ripped off. The only proper show I've been to is Impact and War.
I have some videos on my phone still of the crowd was perfectly 50-50 for Cody, where one side of the building would cheer for him, the other side would just swear and boo. And he tried to flip it, and it just would not work. There was I think he made a tweet about it, which back in 2018, which I was genuinely curious for Chamber all those years later if people would remember and give him the 50-50 treatment. But no, that wasn't the case for Chamber. But sorry, just to loop back around, it wasn't until that tour when I had some people from NH reach out to me and tell me about the show that they were doing, and it's just like, oh no, there's actual wrestling here, and I finally attend my first ever Australian wrestling show, and I gotta make sure I don't besmirch the great name of TNT, because I enjoy TNT, but whenever he would go to conventions, like the wrestling that he would put on at the Supernovas, very 90s, very there's not much depth there. It's like, this is a plumber, this is a truck driver. And it's like, oh, I guess this is what wrestling is here. But then when I finally went to watch a Australian wrestling product, I'm like, oh my God, we're going for this.
Oh, even sorry to cut you off, but I did I think it was either 2016 or 2017. I went with my sister. I think it was very early 2016. And obviously the AWF had been around for a very long time by this point. But even then, I love cosplaying and I love just being a nerd, but some of the wrestlers come out and I don't want to shit on guys personally, but one of the guys come out and he was basically a ripoff of Khal Drago from Game of Thrones, and then someone else was doing something else, and I'm like, look, that's cool to kind of get the attention of the casual nerds that are at Supernova, but you're not really saying, hey, this is our product. It's just
it's very surface level.
It's just a little taste, but a lot of other companies and I know that you guys in Perth, when you do the local festivals and stuff, do them very well, where I know APW specifically does it, where it's like, hey, here's the insert suburb of Perth here, because I don't know the area, but it's like, hey, it's the such and such show, and I've heard Damian Slater and Gavin McGavin talk about how they've wrestled 12 matches in 5 days, and I'm like, that's the shit that you want people to see at a local show. Don't get me wrong, it's entertaining to a point, but there really needs to be some wriggle room to be like, hey, this is our product and this is what you should come see. But unfortunately, a lot of the time at the Supernovas, it doesn't quite hit that mark. But
doesn't always get it gets lost in translation somewhere. But it's definitely I'm biased because now I'm all immersed and submerged in it all. But it feels like it's becoming a bit more mainstream and people actually know where to look now rather than just have to sift through and find out for themselves.
Yes, very much so. But that brings me on to the next part. Again, it's going to go forwards and backwards and all over the place, and I do sincerely apologize. But at what point from being kind of properly exposed to NH do you then decide, what's the deciding factor for you to take that step? Like, how do you approach getting into being a part of the business?
After I saw my first NH show, it's like I need to be amongst this. I need to be a part of this somehow. And I found out that the training academy at the time was only about a 30-minute walk from my house, which is a very, very motivating factor. And I went to a training day and I got my ass kicked. And I will say I'm not the most athletic person, but I managed to stick out the whole 4 hours there was like 5 other people there who were trying it all out for the first time. So I pat myself on the back for that. But I went through that just to ask about, can I help out? Can I do whatever? And they looked at me like I was a mental case. Like, you learned how to bump and do everything. You don't want to wrestle? Like, no, I just want to help out. And I was like, all right, well, it was a very, very gradual process where it was, we need a security guard. We need a cameraman. We need a PA to go back and forth during the shows. And then it just kind of slowly but surely, it just became like, hey, do you want to try your hand at announcing? And I've got a bit of a different voice. And I was like, all right, I'll be sure to give it a go. And it haven't kicked me off just yet. So it's been a journey.
Well, I think that actually segues beautifully into the first question that Nova Lee was going to ask you. So I'm going to just shut up and let her talk now.
So pretty much, it was just from one ring announcer to another. Why ring announcing?
Why not? I mean, I've always been fascinated by the personalities, like the non-wrestling personalities. So it's like, we all love the larger than life characters, but it's always your Paul Heymans. It's always like even your valets, like Miss Elizabeth, Woman, like all of them would just enhance and add a little bit of. They'd be like the X factor that would be a deciding thing in matches, and that would always like just wondering how people could give themselves to wrestling without necessarily having to fling themselves across the ring. Like that's always interested me.
Pretty solid. Yeah, because I feel like I'm pretty similar with that, where it's like I don't have the body really at the moment. I eventually want to get into wrestling, but don't know if it's going to happen. And that's what's kind of like just led me over to wanting to do ring announcing, so that's cool. So going into my next question, who are some of your favorite ring announcers?
Oh, I've got a bunch. I love Jade Chung at the moment in Impact. She's doing incredible work. She's up there for me with Samantha Irving. He's not doing it at the moment, and I wish he would come back to wrestling. For Major League Wrestling, there was an announcer named Tim Barr. He was a game show host turned ring announcer. He has such a very, almost like Tony Chimmel. So whenever he'd say champ, he'd be like, championship! Like he would just find an extra register.
That was one of the ones you were actually looking at, Nova Lee.
I
So there
I
you
think
go.
it was, yeah. I've looked at so many of these so far already.
I think he had a car accident a few years back, which kind of, he had to recover from that. So, which is why he's probably gone back and forth with wrestling. But yeah, like there's a whole lot of announcers that don't get enough credit. Justin Roberts, like I love Justin Roberts, but it's like he makes it too effortless, which I get frustrated by. It's like I like it when I see people struggling or like really giving it 110%. But like he looks like just another day at the office.
You just never see him take a breath, and you're just like,
no.
Yeah.
And like I just John Moxley, I'm just like, you fucker, like just yeah.
He's probably one that I've been stealing a lot of stuff from. It's either like, because some of his stuff, like, as much as like it's effortless, some of it I'm just like his enunciations on things. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna steal that, but then mix it in there with some Irvine and mix that in there with a bit of like Fink and mix it in with everything else. Just kind of mix everything all in one.
I can't remember the quote properly, but it's like you steal from one person, like you're a thief, but like you steal from like 100 and you're an innovator.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
I'm just jamming it all in there.
But I feel like there's a difference between like being inspired and then straight up ripping off. Like they're in Australia too, unfortunately, and like they're having fun, so more power to them. But there's a handful of dudes that are they're trying to do like their best, worst Howard and Finkel impression, and you just watch and you're like, dude, like I feel like if they were to just be themselves, they'd honestly probably be 10 times better. Like it's just like just breathe. Like we all love
that is the secret. Yeah.
Yes.
But I will say, I don't know if it was like international, your question over, I apologize. Like, but yeah, there's a lot of Australian announcers that.
Yeah, it's just generalized. Just your favorite ones. Like,
she's just trying to
give me a list. I need to write these down. Get some inspiration.
I mean, if we're going Australian guys and girls, Gemstone is definitely up there for me.
Yes, same.
Lindsay Howard, who I worked with OPW, like he really showed me just what things I need to work on to continually improve.
The Bret Hart show with?
He was, yes.
because we just watched it this afternoon.
Like, who is
and
he?
I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's fucking amazing. Like,
yeah. And over here in WA, like different companies, but Mean Dean Olsen for EPW, man, like he's one of those, and for Do Where's My Ring, he's just one of those very natural personalities that just gravitates amazingly to just giving a bit more adrenaline to anything that he's in front of him. So yeah. So many people here in Australia as well.
There's someone in Perth actually that you were following on social media.
Oh, there's so many. I've got
there was
like
a lady over
list.
there somewhere where you were like, "Oh my god, she's so badass."
I'd say Chili.
Yes.
I think that might be.
Chili,
yeah.
yes.
I just had
No, she's really just broken in recently.
Yeah. Oh, she's good.
Novalee fangirls over her quite a lot already.
I want her in NH at some point for our all women shows. So like, and she tried to. It didn't work out for our most recent show, but whenever we try and do another all women's event, I want her. As much as I love to work, don't get me wrong. As like the fact that we now have a female announcer in the mix is like, I'm quite happy to be like, I understand this moment and just have at it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I love that. Here we go. Here's my next question. My next question is, do you have any advice for any upcoming ring announcers or just people in the wrestling business in general / me?
Be aware of your presence and what you're projecting out there to people. Like, so I don't like to look back on what I've done as much, especially when I first started, but just being aware of just some of the things that I do when I might be a bit nervous. Like I used to kind of shuffle back and forth in the middle of the ring, or I try and hold on to one of the ropes as like a support thing. So the part, like, because I learned on the job in my first couple of years, very much the thing for me was learning how to plant myself like a tree in the middle of that ring and make sure, like, I'm not one of those people that does cue cards, or if I do, I try and be very minimal about it. Like the second thing I would try, and it doesn't, like some people, they can't help but always have them, which is totally fine. But just the looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up, like that kind of takes me out of it personally as a viewer. Yeah. So just having being able to try and remember things, or if you do have to have key cards, make sure that you don't lose that eye contact or that engagement with the audience. Okay. So those are my two things that I try and work towards, and I guess warming up as well. Like some people just don't warm up, and they just go out there and like their voice is just pristine, which I wish that was the case for myself. But I sound pretentious. I do like vocal warm ups. Like I'm a big fan of voice actors and try and make sure that, like, because it's an instrument at the end of the day, like trying to make sure that what you're giving out is the best version of you. So that takes time, that takes practice, and yeah, I've nearly 6 years now. I must be doing something right.
But again, though, like not to interject on Nova's question and your answer, she herself, again, Samantha Irvine, and a lot of people are kind of starting to give her flack online, but I guess the internet will be internet. She started like posting, like, well, not started, she's been doing it for a while now, but she's doing like the backstage stuff, and she showed like videos of where she was doing like the full like. It wasn't so much vocal warm-ups per se for her, but she was doing like the enunciation. Like, what was it? It was like Rey Mysterio rented a Rolls Royce or something. And then she was, and because she has the singing voice, she was like doing the and new and the and still. And literally before, like, obviously we've only done 2 proper shows so far with Novalee. But even at home when she's kind of practicing with my microphone in her hand, she'll do the and new and still. And she's literally basically stealing it from Samantha. But it's a very underrated thing. Like even for commentary, I'm just ADHD as hell, but I'll be sitting there pacing back and forth, just kind of like talking or singing to myself, just trying to,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to get the vocal cords a moving. But
because it's just.
I
Really...
will say.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say apologies. No, sorry, apologies. Like for me, I don't know if I'll give away all my trade secrets, but for me, my vocal is. Are you guys big Family Guy watchers? Or
I am a massive Family Guy watcher. Nova Lee watches it with me on occasion.
Okay, my vocal warm up is one of like just the Al Harrington ads, the car salesman or the wacky webby purple Uncle man.
Yes,
I do that. I do that whole monologue, like the first couple monologues that I remember growing up with. And like that's like that covers everything.
Yes.
Like for me, just to be like, all right, I'm ready.
That just pops me ridiculously hard.
Because you're giving me some really good tips. Because at the moment, I've kind of been just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like just anxious, a mess. It's like I'm kind of like I don't want to watch myself back, or I hear a video of my voice. I'm like, ugh. But I'm like, I need to really watch myself back so I can get that feedback from myself, like what I'm doing wrong, because like everyone else is kind of like going, you're great, and then like I've only had a couple little like hiccups here and there where they're like, oh, you need to fix this or that. But it's kind of like it's good to look at that. Plus, I know my eye contact's not great yet. It's dog shit. So that's some really good advice.
Like these things take time, and I'll be honest, like I can look back at stuff like from say last month before, like that's fine for me now. But watching my stuff when I first started, like I that's locked in a vault somewhere that I do not want to touch or acknowledge, like repress down. But yeah, like those things very much take time, and just that understanding from getting that feedback from people. Obviously, or it's like if there's a problem, they will tell you, or like they will give you some pointers. It's always just important to listen where you can, but and again, everyone's journey is different. So even if like what might work for myself might not necessarily be the same thing for you, but at the end of the day, like we're all just trying to make it like bring out our personality. So like whatever tips and tricks, whatever thing works for you, like just find those little quirks that just make you, and go from there.
Cool. Thank you for that. That was like really solid advice.
Thank you.
I think that's a good little episode title there. Find those quirks.
So before I throw,
I'm all about plugging, like just creating those little buzzwords where I can. So I think that's just.
I need to do that too. I need to start having some little buzzwords and things like, yes. So before I throw it back to John, could you tell us about your experience working with OPW and how that became to be?
I've been playing it back in my head, and truthfully, I don't 100% know. I reached out to Cam, the fellow who runs OPW. He's been a member of my Facebook wrestling group, the Australian Wrestling Community, for a couple years now. He's been a quiet member, just observing the amount of fans. Yeah.
Cool.
And so he was aware of the work that I try and do, not just with my announcing, but trying to promote Australian wrestling. And I'd reached out to him not long after Wagga Wagga and said, like, oh, if there's ever a chance, because I think I heard an interview with Pierce, or I can't remember if it was your interview with him, actually.
Not to put myself over here, but yes, both Pierce and myself, I actually got to do it in person in Wagga Wagga. He invited me to his hotel room, and I was just like, bro, like, we went so overtime, and I kept, like, trying to cut it off, and he was just, I guess he actually started to enjoy the conversation, and he just kept talking as well, and I was like, I have no idea how that happened, but I'm hoping it happens again.
He's a very genuine guy, and everything just kind of falls into place with him. I'll give him that much. But I said to him, because I heard about the business model about going to rural places and just putting on these big events, and I was like, well, what's more rural than Perth? So I got up the courage to reach out to him, and at first, again, I don't know if this is the plan at some point, but he was thinking about putting StarCast in Perth, but I think this was before Chamber got announced.
Yes, okay.
So that probably impacted things slightly. And even though, then I saw that the Ballarat announcement, and I was like, oh, okay. But I think one of the selling points for him was he thought that the work that I did for the AWC was like a group of people. And for anyone else who might be have that thought, it's actually just me on my lonesome. It's just something that I've been doing on my own for about 3 years now. It's been because I used to be a podcaster as well, and that was the last vestige of our little group that I've kind of kept going. But the fact that he thought that I was this big conglomerate that was promoting Australian wrestling, like he just saw the work that I put in. He said, I want to work with you in some capacity. It's like, I don't know if I'll be able to bring you over as an announcer per se, but I'll find out on the day. So I fly over to Ballarat. I fly out 11:30 at night here in Perth. I get there at 5:30 in the morning, take a 2-hour trip and make sure I'm suited up the moment I meet him. So like, if this is very much a thing on the day, if you got the job or not, I'm going to look my best. So I rocked up in my suit. Ballarat was absolutely freezing in the morning. And he looked me up and down and said, "You got the job?"
That's awesome.
Which is like, yeah. So it was very much like, great, I've got the job. Now I've got a whole day in Ballarat until then. Which I was doing media for there. I was interviewing a few people and meeting the fans. But yeah, I put all this time and energy into this 5-minute conversation that was, for me, like has been a career highlight, most definitely so far in my 6 years. But yeah, like that whole weekend is very much a blur because I was only there for about 2 days, and like just to be able to watch it back now, like as we announced, like it's up on Stream Horizon, just to be able to watch that all back and just
for free,
relive it all.
Yes.
Yeah, for free. I know, which is a rarity. It's incredible, man. Yeah.
But it's funny because I didn't mean to cut you off, but I remember you and I don't even know how I came to be. I think it was from one of the handful of conversations that you and I have had here and there. But I was legitimately talking about you maybe 3 days ago tops, for that same thing about how you solely run the AWC, and myself and Miss Nova Lee were like, well, I think it was like when you and I were setting up like the thing, because she's like, oh, he's the guy that like does the announcing of this, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's also the guy that runs this and this, and we would just basically
like, what?
naturally come up that I'm like, I think it was just one of the conversations we had. You might have just thrown it out there in passing, but somehow I was already privy to that information that you shared. I'm like, I don't know how, because like we're talking about basically like wrestling promotions and social media and just stuff in general, and some people need to step up their game. But I was just like, and then they come to, how the hell does Michael Lee like? He's like, you're still like doing all the NH stuff and EPW stuff and all the Perth stuff in general. But then the fact that you're doing the entire, and every now and then like you'll accidentally put the wrong state, or you'll accidentally put like the wrong date, and someone's like, oh, you forgot this, and like I understand the frustration of, hey, like you need the correct information, but I'm looking at this one guy that's going around the entire country
like,
and swooshing it into one thing, and I'm like, no, that's why every now and then I'll just comment and be like, hey, look, there's a poster for this or there's a poster for that. But some people are kind of like, I understand frustration, but some people are kind of dickish about it, of what about this person, or you didn't include this person, and I'm like, bro, this one guy is gathering all of this stuff. Like, honestly, hats off to you, man.
And
like,
different hats, and
he's just ripping off the suits like Superman at this point. Like, oh shit, trying to think of a change for this, trying to think of a change for that.
No, it used to. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like in the first, like when I first started doing those gathering posts, like having people mention that, it did irk me a little bit. But honestly, I know it comes from a good place, and I'll use Kyle as an example. May he rest in peace. Like, just I know he, like, again, it's just out of a genuine love for wrestling, and like when you try and like when I'll listen to like John Cena interviews and like just those kinds of extra bits of wisdom, and just like understanding kind of where people come from, what are their, like they want to make sure that their promotion that they love, that they've discovered, they want to make sure that the world knows about them too. So it keeps me grounded. And again, I've water off a duck's back at this point, but in the early years when I did that, definitely it was all right, no more internet for today.
But no, you bring up Kyle, and it's crazy because he was meant to be, obviously I had Joel Southgate on here. He's so far, like, he's the only like fan that I've had that wasn't like a direct family or friend member, but Kyle was meant to be the first like fan on this podcast, and we're actually talking about it at Impact when I first met him. So the fact that he was gone like less than a month later, like boggling my mind.
Yeah.
But I love fans like Carl's because even like I'm very self-deprecating at times on this pod, and it's not that I'm trying to get people like I'm not fishing for people to be like, no, you're great. It's just like I never put stock in my ability as a professional wrestler, and I have been. It's pretty obvious that injury and illness and whatever aside, I've done more in the wrestling business and built more connections in the last 4 years sitting on my ass with this podcast than I ever did actively wrestling. But he was still always like, when are you getting cleared? When are you getting cleared? I want to watch you wrestle. I want to watch you wrestle. I'm like, man, like we need more fans like Kyle. It's just
like if you have a Kyle in your audience, if you ever had a Kyle in your audience, you knew you were in for a really good night. Just like you were never not going to have no crowd reaction. Like you were going to have some kind of response, and like having that's what they teach. At least I'd say for NH, like that. There's that as long as you connect to one person, and then it just expands, and it just like that group mindset eventually like permeates through the rest of the building. As long as you focus on that one person, and to have a Kyle in your audience who's always just going to have that guttural response, even if they know the person, even if they've met them a dozen times, they cannot understate enough how valuable that is for anyone in the industry.
I feel like that's actually a very good segue to the next question, though, because the next one is.
I'm just handing these to you guys.
So you know these questions beforehand.
You get a segue. Well, he said he listened to the one with Cam, which is awesome because I didn't realize that you were one of the people that listened to that, so I appreciate that greatly. But the third official question in the core five is just this is where we mark out a little bit and we loosen up just to kind of break the conversation up, and that's just. You talk about Kyle being a massive fan. What are some of your favorite matches? I used to say what is your all-time, but you can list a few. Like it's not gun to head, but what are some of your favorite matches of all time, both that you've seen in person and then you've just seen like, from the comfort of your own home? Because the actual question is matches that you've had, but obviously you're a ring announcer, so we'll change it up a little bit. But just some of your favorite matches, both live and on TV.
I mean, I can talk about the time where I took a bump. I don't know if that will be a factor, but I've only taken one.
Was it an intentional bump though?
Oh, very much so.
Okay. Because my friend DPC, he goes, I'm never going to take a bump. I'm just going to do comms. He got in the ring to do an in-ring interview, and I guess he was just nervous because it was his first night on the job, and he slipped, fell, and took a bump on the apron by complete accident on his first night after swearing that was the one thing he'd never do.
Yeah. It's funny how that works in wrestling. Like, you set a bar, like just like just a line you will not cross, and then it just immediately just out the window.
There's just a running joke now when it comes to the Central West shows in Cowra. We're at a different venue now, so hopefully it's not going to happen. But with the venue we were at for the last 5-6 years or whatever, because there was a couple of years in between. I think it's like 7 years all up, but. The ring was right next to the stage, but obviously we had it just far away enough that it wasn't, the ring posts weren't smacking the wood and stuff, right? So I'm like running around like, hey, for whatever reason, it was my job to run around and be like, tell everyone, don't fall in the gap. And then literally in my match, it was my first time as a heel. I've slapped Tank, who was my tag team partner at the time because we were against each other. And I'm like, nah, fine, whatever. Slapped him and done the whole chicken shit heel thing. Literally, I've put 1 foot out of the rope and I've stepped into the hole. So I've like nutted myself on the second rope. My mate's literally caught me, like he was my bodyguard / manager at the time. And he's like, bro, I meant to save you in like, not to pull the time behind too much, but he's like, I was meant to save you in kayfabe, not save you for real. He's full pulling me out of this hole. And I was just like, and now it's just a running joke of, hey, John, mind the gap. Everyone, make sure John minds the gap, but also everyone mind the gap too. And it's just like, fuck you.
Oh my God.
But to ask the question again, what's some of your favorite matches that you've seen both in person and just on TV?
I'm a lot more selective now, just because I've kind of lost that ability just to not to overanalyze. Like I will always like have that attention now of like what this person's kind of going for. So like I can't watch it as a regular person anymore, I don't think. But I'd say Major League Wrestling has always been like since I discovered it in I think it was like 2018, 2017. Like that was always the one for me that just had just the very low key, absolute bangers. And for me, I think one of them was before he got into AEW was Phoenix versus Low Key for the MLW World Title.
Ooh, okay.
Like that's one that I go back to. Like just anything with Low Key, anything with Jacob Fatu. I think like the last match that he had in MLW, like the Weapons of Mass Destruction match, I've watched that like a dozen times in preparation for him. If you believe the dirt sheets with him coming to WWE.
Every time there's a PLE or some sort of bloodline-related segment now, I'm just like...
today the day?
I mean, look, if it is true and they've genuinely leaked it, they've done their job, because legit, I'm just sitting there like, come on, Jacob, come on, Jacob, come on, Jacob. Like, I thought that obviously because Tangaloa having a criminal record wasn't allowed in Saudi, right? And on SmackDown, they made a point of saying, oh, he couldn't come because of this. And I was like, well, Jacob technically has one too. I'm like, have they put that out there so it is a surprise when he shows up? I'm like, he's going to show up. He's going to... And it's just like, no, he's just not there. And I was like, well...
I'm let down now.
But for matches that I've seen in NHPW, like we have the privilege of being host to a lot of great names, not just from over East coming over, but from overseas, because a lot of people that know Mana from his time in wrestling or who knew of him, like their trainers knew him in their time. Like last year alone, I got to watch Minoru Suzuki versus Loki. That was the main event of our big middle of the year show, Crossroads. That's very much etched into my brain. Just to have, like, we were at like maximum. I think we went over the fire code, just cramming so many people into our usual venue to make. I think it was about 350 people by the end of it all. Just to watch them all just see those two just chop the absolute piss out of each other.
Hell yes.
But yeah, but in terms of the work that I've seen from the guys here, that there's he doesn't get enough credit. Jared Slate in WA,
dude, I love him.
He's like been around for about nearly 20 years now. He's just an absolute bear of a man, and he has such an immediate connection with people because they know that he's just this grizzled, angry bastard that he can be a comedy character, or he can actually he can do the death matches, he can do your hardcore, he can go just strike for strike. Like any match with him, I walk away better as a announcer, as a commentator, just being able to see how his mind works.
He's someone. Sorry, I was just going to say, he's someone that I'd love to have on the show here, because like I've done with the Reaction Wednesday wrestling videos we do, we've actually done a couple of his matches, and yeah, as you say, we've done a death match of his, and we've done just a tag match, and then just like a regular match, and he literally does everything. And I did a graphic for PW Down Under, and he was one of the very few wrestlers that actually replied to my message when I was like, hey man, can I get a proper high quality, photo, so I'm not just getting shitty ones from Google? And he straight away was like, hey man, have this. And I was just like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. No,
very much would love to have him on here. Yeah.
It's a lot of people. I think that's just the mindset of everyone here in WA. Like if anyone is willing to try and boost the signal of what we do here, like we're just going to jump at it. It's like, oh yeah, man. Like it's never going to be a question. So if there is anyone in WA, like I will make sure as well. If you need to break the ice with anyone else from WA, even if it's not NA specifically, I'm always happy to be that buffer.
Well, there you go. That makes two people over in Western Australia that now I've got on the hook. I've got Cooper Kingsley. I keep trying to call him Jeremiah, but he's rebranded. And Michael Lee now. So let's go.
He's a lovely man.
But I lost where I was up to now, my bad. Okay, so the question is, what is your favorite match that you've had the pleasure of announcing? Or is that, or one of those matches you just mentioned kind of up there already?
I can't say for Loki and Suzuki because I only announced for one of them. I'd say for one that I've done completely, oh dear. I'd say most recently the OPW tag title match from Stampede. So the Pereira versus Edward Dusk and Gangrel.
That was amazing, by the way.
Thank you. And that was, I've had the honor, I will give absolute credit to Gabriel Eros and Eli Theseus because those bloody bastards. I've had the honor of working with them the past couple of years now. Like, they're our tag champions here in NHPW for WA. And they know that I want to try and, I know their introduction off by heart, and I want to make sure that it's done properly. And like, they make sure that every time that they come here, it's like, no, Michael's announcing it. Like, he does it right, which means the world to me. And like, them in my ear as I'm announcing in Ballarat, like, that wasn't planned. That was them.
Nova
like,
actually pointed that out this afternoon while watching that, and then the way that, like, and I think it's just because I don't know if we were looking for it intentionally, but just you kind of, you see, I think it was Gabriel specifically, you kind of see almost not direct, because again, as you say, you're keeping eyes with the fan / the hard cam, but there's that slight just glimmer of eye contact between you and Gabriel as they're circling you.
That was
and
so
you just
good.
kind of,
I was like,
they handed up and
more.
you handed up, and she was like, oh my God, I really need to engage the wrestlers more. And I was just like, yeah, but again, you know, it's
and
a
I
lot
haven't
ago,
started
but
actually
it was
announcing
so
in the
naturally
ring yet,
done
so.
that I was just like, it was such a small thing that, again, not many people would notice or appreciate, but Nova just straight away was like, that was on the fly, wasn't it? And there we go. We just got our answer. That actually was. Hell yes.
I don't know how I'm going to top it the next time that I have to work with them, but they're gonna try and pull that out of me again, and I've got to be ready. But that's very much in the front of my mind, being able to announce those guys.
The next question is technically, usually it's what is your dream opponent / dream stipulation, which, I mean, hell, if you want to answer, you can still answer it if you like, but what wrestler or wrestlers are like bucket list for you to announce for, or, you know?
I'll answer the first question, and then I will answer the one. So like, I'll just to look back, and the plan, I did take my my first bump on a show. The plan was, so I'm 31 now, and when I was 28.
I thought you were younger than me. Holy shit.
Oh, no. Well, apologies. But yeah, one of the things was like, I was making a plan of like, what can I do for my 30th birthday? And I'll do a wrestling match. But like, I'm one of those people, like, I don't want to have like a pity little segment. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, if I was going to ever actually have a match, I wanted to put in the work and like not stink up the joint, and not have it be like, let Michael have his moment. Just like, oh no, he's earned his spot. And it just happens to coincide with what I want to do for my 30th birthday. And so for about a year and a half, I was training recreationally at the NHPW Academy, and I lost about 15 kilos. I got into really good shape. And I've got to say because one of the motivating factors was I got to work with Lena Cross before she made her move here to Newcastle. So she was our main champion while we were in lockdown. Like, so she was leading the joint while we were all unsure about what was going on. And we had this closing segment. She was meant to face Erica Reed, and we couldn't get her over because, like, Victoria, again, we all had our experiences during lockdown, but WA was far. Is it safe to say that we were more strict than everyone else, or?
Oh, no, because I feel like Victoria had the most, but from what I've seen, because obviously like New South Wales was bad, but it was manageable. Like I still had to go to work because I was working as a janitor at the time, but but no, from what I saw, like you guys were like really boxed in.
Yeah. And so we had this, so that kind of ruined the main event of this event that we had, and we just wanted this closing segment, and it was going to lead to me having a match down the line with not necessarily her, but like one of her. So she was leading a faction called the Future Legends, and like being able to have a match with one of them down the line just to lay that groundwork. And yeah, so the closing moments for the show that Erica was unable to attend, it ended with me not calling her a champion because she stole one of our titles, and she like gave me a biggest clothesline ever, knocked my head clean off my shoulders, and that was just meant to lay that foundation. And to about 2022, early 2022, when I was still, that was the goal. I partially tore my ACL in practice. Okay. And that was about 6 months of recovery time. And by then I kind of lost that that groundwork and the moment had kind of passed. So if I ever do decide to, whether it be for a milestone or just something or other, I do want to still have that groundwork with the people that I did take a bump for. Whether that happens in the next couple of years, I'm not trading at the moment, so don't expect it anytime soon for anyone who's really eager to see me get my ass kicked. But yeah, people I want to work with, there's so many. There's one, for me, the one that got away, Karrion Kross.
Yep.
Because he was announced for one of our NH shows in 2020, and then he got the deal with NXT.
Yep.
The first deal. And then he got laid off with the gimp mask and everything else. And when he was back in Major League Wrestling, because MLW have close ties to Mana, because he was part of the original MLW, it was like, finally, we've got him. We get to work with him again. And I speak to Mana, and he went straight back to the set and just son of a bitch. So for him, he's again, there's a boatload of people that I would love to work with, but I don't know how. Even if it's not in Australia, I want to work with Karrion Kross. That is my goal.
Well, there you go. There we go. That's a little bucket list. But if you could have announced any match in history, if you could put yourself in the shoes of a Howard Finkel or a Lillian Garcia or a Tony Chimel or Justin Roberts, I'm naming just WWF people at the moment, but if you could have announced any match in history, what would that one match be?
Because it's so fresh in my mind because of the crowd, if I could have been in Samantha Irving's shoes for the Leon introduction for AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes.
Oh, dude.
That would have been so cool.
I've rewatched that one clip. I don't know how many times where the camera is just the building is shaking and the camera is shaking.
Yeah.
It's just, wow.
You cannot ask for anything more than that. Just a crowd that is just frothing at the mouth for just this is the fight to be. This is the world title. This is everything they could possibly want. It is right in front of them. It's never going to happen again for another long time. And yeah, lightning in a bottle. That would be definitely one where I'd want to swap places.
Alrighty, so going on to the next question now. Before we get into the last official question, Michael, could you just tell us a little bit about what it's been like working with NHPW and just the wrestling scene in general over there?
It's been the best experience, again, barring obviously my wife. I credit a lot of people for bringing me out of my shell in my time on this earth. One of them is definitely my lovely lady who, yeah. But yeah, the people in wrestling, they very much pull, again, because I was announcing on the job and I was learning how to be more comfortable in myself, being a more positive version of me. It's just that camaraderie that you have with a lot of people in the industry. And as I'm very much an introverted person and I've gotten a lot better, but just to have that relationship with people that it's you're in this, you get to go in the bubble, you get to have all these acquaintances and interactions, and you can call some of these people just amazing friends. And whether that can bleed into things or it can't, or you choose for it not to, just to have that in my life. And I will forever be grateful to Amana for taking a chance on me. And then the fact that I've been welcomed by I think the work that I do for the AWC. People think that, because I was worried in the beginning, people would think that it would be something that, I'm just going to promote NH stuff and just trying to get himself over. But it's the fact that people see that I actually want Australian wrestling as a whole to get a boosted signal and to get more eyes on it internationally. I've been in, it's given me a lot of, I've gotten a lot of support from other promotions, which is why I've been fortunate enough to travel to the other states and make some of these moments for myself, however indirectly.
I'm
So,
still
yeah,
kicking myself currently about the Suplex show because I was meant to be on commentary for that Rumble that you got to announce for, but just
I know.
health, life, it all
That
just
would've
kind
been
of
so cool.
went to shit, and I was just like, bro, like, I was actually like that was honestly that was like top of my list for that show. It was technically would be my interstate commentary debut because I've only done I did New South Wales for Extreme Capital Wrestling, but it's the ACT border. And I was just like, literally, and Nova can attest to this. I was just like, I just wanted to meet Michael. Like, I was full like just a little fanboy because I just,
I'm a
again,
fanboy for
just seeing
Michael.
all the stuff that you've done with the AWC on top of everything you're doing, out west. I'm just like, I respect the hustle and I respect the grind, and it's something that I aspire to do even half of. And I was just
Likewise.
like, that literally was like, that was my big gripe. It was like, yeah, interstate debut. Oh, everyone loves a Rumble. But my thing was, man, like, just it would have been so cool just to shoot the shit and hang out with Michael,
Thank you. Well, it can still happen. Like, I've set the goal where I want to work in every state and territory. So I am, after this weekend, I've achieved 5 of the 8 states and territories. So I still haven't been to ACT yet. So we'll have to organise that at some point.
I'm sure if Miss Novalee wants to just focus on her colour commentary duties, we can hand the cue cards to Michael Lee for a night.
However it happens, like I'm sure we'll cross paths like in person down the line. Like I feel that's pretty safe to say.
But you got any? So this is going to drop. I should probably stress on where are we now? This should be dropping on the 9th of June, Sunday the 9th of June. So by the time this goes out, you've actually been to South Australia and back and yada, yada, yada. But is there anything you want to plug for NHPW or just Perth in general? Because I saw something coming up in July and you saw my reaction to that. I popped very hard and I was like, someone fly me to Perth, please. So if you wanted to just plug some NHPW and just the Perth wrestling scene before I go into the official last question and we get into your personal social media plugs and yada, yada, yada.
Sure. So after this drops, then I will have been here and back for PWSA's main show of the year, Super Slam. So very eager to be working with the Kings of Ruin and a whole bunch of other just wrestling royalty in South Australia. Paul Roberts, especially. I don't think I named him with all the announcers, but the voice of South Australia, it's very much a thing on my bucket list to work with him. As for NH, June 22nd is our next show, Fall from Grace. We are getting our general manager, London Hargraves. He is dipping his toe. He retired about 5 years ago. He's kind of dipping his toes back into things. And he has such a very interesting connection with our audience. He wears this big purple overcoat, and people call him Willy Wonka. Like people love to hate him, even though he's a babyface at the moment. But yeah, just to have him back in the ring in some capacity, I'm not going to spoil what's in store, but just to be able to watch that. And then July 27th, as you alluded to, we are bringing over the son of Steve Carino, Mr. Colby Carino, is going to be here for Old School Reload.
This is a very Colby Carino, Steve Carino especially. Like Mrs Crossfire, I didn't know anything about Steve Carino until meeting me, but the match that they had, like it's been a match of the week here on the pod in the past, but if y'all haven't seen Colby versus Steve, where Steve, it's such an emotional roller coaster. It goes for like 45 minutes from like bell to bell, plus like the promos and everything, but it does not feel that long. But no, Colby is a very big name in this house quite often that we just go to when we want to just throw something on for the sake of having wrestling in the background.
I mean, who wouldn't want to have a bit of sibling rivalry or just a family relationships kind of resolved in the middle of that ring for about 45 minutes, you know?
No, I would. What?
My brother will listen to this and be like, what? Be like, hey, he reckons he's going to start training when he turns 18 in the middle of the year. So that could be a thing for the future, and Michael Lee will have to announce.
It's not official unless someone's there to watch, I suppose. But just to circle back, Steve has been he was part of like the very first couple of NH shows in WA, and Steve was part of the original MLW again, looping back to Mana. So again, it's just one of those relationships that because of him we're able to facilitate and because Perth's very hard to get to, but for someone to be willing to come all the way to Perth, and it wouldn't happen for just any normal place. So I can't credit him and the people that I work with enough for being able to make what will happen on July 27th.
I cannot wait to see the footage and the photos and the everything. I'll have to get you to send me the links to those two shows so I can put them in the description of this this episode. But the last question, I always do a non-wrestling question, and I try my best to tailor this to the individual. And I originally had a question, but then I changed it because it's a question I have still asked a handful of times. But amongst both in this house and at ECW shows before we've started, I'm trying to get Nova Lee in the habit of, and I don't even know who I learnt this from. It may have been Jim Ross. It could have been someone else, but it was some sort of wrestling podcast where basically to loosen her up, I had her essentially just saying random things in her best ring announcing voice. And my go-to was at the show, I was pointing at random wrestlers and just saying, hey, you, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? And making Miss Nova Lee do it over the microphone to practice. So I'm going to just ask you, Michael Lee, it's just as a little fun fact before we go into the plugs, and then we'll throw it to Miss Nova Lee and make her announce it. What is Michael Lee's favorite cuisine?
So sorry, so I have to announce this in my announcer voice, or I'm
just say what it is. I'm going to make her just as a little.
He's trying to make me do it.
You can do it if you want.
But you can do it, and then I can try and
top that. Yeah, no.
No, my favorite cuisine. Oh dear Lord.
You can say food, Nova. I was just trying to sound pretentious, just to be a dick.
Cuisine.
I can't go past a palmy. I'm very much a palmy snob whenever I go to different places.
I'm just going to say this, right? Thank you for saying palmy, not Palmer.
Oh yeah,
I got a lot of friends in Victoria that'll listen to this.
That's a point of contention with me as well. Yeah, no, it's palmy.
If you guys are listening, it's palmy, not Palmer. Get it right.
Fucking potato cakes instead of scallops. My God.
But it's like whenever I'm unsure about a restaurant, or I just want to kind of get the lay of the land, and I know I'll probably go back there. Like, no, just how's the palmy, and that's my gauge for how much attention to detail they put into the rest of the food. So, 100%, that will be one. Of course, just any like Japanese sushi. Like sushi's my second after that.
I'll see there. You and Nova Lee will get a lot because I'm not very big on sushi. She's got me into like a little bit of things here and there, but like I'm not a very fussy eater. I'll eat just about anything, but stuff that I don't like, I definitely don't like. So I was like, for the longest time, I hated sushi, but she's actually got me onto a couple of dishes. So I guess if we ever do actually get the meat, we'll have to have some sort of sushi or palmy date or something. But,
sounds phenomenal.
But so official answer for that is Michael Lee's favorite food is a chicken palmy.
Alrighty. Should it be pretentious or no?
I just want to see how good you can announce this, and then Michael can
I'm on the spot
give you
now.
some pointers. And
Michael Lee's favorite food is a chicken parmigiana.
Oh, I even threw in the parmigiana.
It sounds very scandalous when you say it like that, but
Parmigiana.
But again, that's the little things where. So, and I'll put her on the spot while I'm talking to another ring announcer here, because again, she's only done 2 shows officially, despite all the hours of practicing and podcasting. At the last show, like, there's a few things there where when she's like saying people's locations and that, she's done little things like that, and a lot of the time it hasn't even been planned. It's just kind of, for example, Rex is from the creepiest side of Elm Street, and the way that she did it, like, it was kind of cheesy, but it came so naturally that it worked, and now she's just doing it permanently. But there was a few things she did where she said the names before, like the name, like she was saying such and such from here weighing at this. And like it's the tiniest little bit, but she was like kicking herself when she's like, I'm this and I'm trash, and the whole ride home she was just like, I suck and I should just quit and I'm not good enough, and I'm like, dude, it's your second show, like
it's because I have fluid on the brain, so I have it pushes on my optic nerves, so sometimes my eyes blur out. So I didn't realize that I hadn't already read the thing, and it's like all blurry, and I'm just reading from the card as is. And because I'm nervous, I'm not really paying attention, and then I've realized afterwards, I'm like, oh, I butchered that.
I think my wife has a similar thing, just with blurry vision on occasion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely empathize with those situations. Like, I don't know if this was going to be the question or not, but my favorite little introduction that I've done for people, like little quirky one, obviously besides the Pereira boys, like one of the most recent ones, I got to work with Chris Weiss, the 0-1 world champion. Like, he's one of those very underrated Australian wrestlers that no one talks about. Like, because hits his job. He actually makes a living in Japan just being this brute mystery Aussie man. And he's actually from the same town that I'm from, and being able to work with him. So one of my little quirky things with him, so I got to announce from Tokyo, Japan by way of Gosnells, which was like a nice pop moment for everyone in the crowd when he was over here back home in, I think it was February. But yeah, just those little things. And again, those are the things that I relish as an announcer, getting to craft those little personal introductions with other wrestlers, just to bring out the best version of them, and just to be playful and just show that you're what's the word I'm looking for? Just to show that you're not going to go to the script, because there is an order to announcing, but just to show that you want to give people their due and give them a bit of zest to their introduction. So yeah, I live for those moments.
Yeah, because I think one of the reasons I butchered it too, with one of them was because I was doing colour commentary at the same time, so I was double fisting.
Just kind of thrown into the fire with like 24 hours notice, by the way, of just, you're doing this. So.
Shit, I have not prepared anything. I've never done colour commentary in my life apart from being on the pod, so I was like, well, shit. But yeah, one of the girls came out, and she was making like this playful looking like smirk and things. So I acknowledged that, and then that's when I read it out and was like, Savannah Rowe, and then I was like, wait, I meant
from
to
Western
say
Australia. Wait, ridiculous.
Yeah, and I quickly butchered it out, but it sounded good. And she even come up to me afterwards and was like, that was really cool. But then the promoter was like, oh, like, I want you to kind of stick to that. And I was like, okay, cool, no worries. Next time I'll try and make sure that I definitely stick to what the card says.
And wait first. But,
do it
but the
first.
way the reason I kind of did that just for fun was just to kind of A, loosen you up, and B, just kind of get Michael's reaction on the little inflection. Because again, whether intentional or not, there was a little bit of a Sam Irvine in there. But it was funny because she's actually from Western Australia originally, is Savannah Rowe. And she was basically saying something cheeky, and Miss Nova Lee was like, and it was on cue, like she'd announced 3 of the 4 competitors, Savannah was last, and it was, and that smartass remark came from Savannah, the has-been Harlequin Rowe, and obviously it's the has-been Harlequin Savannah Rowe, not in between, but it was just that little thing. I'm like, but you still got the information out, it was just a little bit jumbled, but it still flowed.
Yeah. She actually liked it, because she's like, I'm meant to be like a crazy Harlequin, so you doing it that way put me over. And I was like, oh, sick, like, yay! I'm doing my job.
One of the things I'll say is, this is another thing that I've learned from my time in wrestling. I think it's a good lesson for everybody. It's not a mistake until you acknowledge it as a mistake. Yes. Because there are things in wrestling where you can kind of like, if you are still in the zone and you are so confident, you can just shrug off a little thing. Like, even if it's like, say, a wrestler, even if they like botch a move, if they keep moving along, people might think like, did they really botch it, or is it part of the story of the match? So you can continue on like with announcing as well. But it's like, if someone stops and just says fuck or damn it, and it's like, oh, he messed up.
Yeah, you can tell. I need to try and work
I apologize if I'm not meant to curse in here.
Oh, dude, every second
all
word,
the time.
I've tried really hard to clean up the episodes, especially as I go more into them, but at the end of the day, they are still marked as E for explicit on Spotify and Apple Pod and everything, just because every now and then one slips through, and especially when it's just Nova and I doing like our 2-person shows, it's just, it's bad. I've got one coming up where it's, again, for Central West, where we're actually in a church for that venue, so I'm going to have to do everything I can to mind my P's and Q's for that one. But no, you're fine. You can say whatever you want.
Okay, wonderful.
Now give me your craziest conspiracy theories.
I'm actually usually pretty good. I just,
But no, I just wanted to have a little bit of fun with the non-wrestling question and just kind of loosen you up here and just, as I said, just get a little bit of Michael Lee's feedback on there. And again, that was good feedback.
No,
so
because it's like it's really giving me confidence. Because lately I've just been a bit down on myself, so I'm like, it's really helping.
But where can we find you on social media, Michael, and NHPW, and all the bits and bobs? Like the floor is yours for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, however many minutes it takes you to put yourself and your product and everything over.
I'm mainly on Instagram. My handle's Michael Lee _wrestling MC. Not very innovative, but it has a nice little rhyme that help people remember who I am. NHPW, we're on Facebook and Instagram at Perth Pro Wrestling or at Perth. I think it might be jumbled on one or both of them. But yeah, I am predominantly NHPW. I'm sorry, I'm getting all mixed up here. This is a great way to end everything from a lovely conversation. But no, I'm very much the ride or die with NHPW, so that's where I will always be. But yeah, with PWSA, I believe their Facebook got compromised a couple months ago, so it is actually PWSA / Pro Wrestling South Australia, which is where I will have already had my South Australian debut by the time this drops. Yeah. And for all the other places that I've had the honour and privilege to work with, please check out OPW, Suplex, TCW. Oh Lord, there's so many places that I could name right now and places that I want to work. But yeah, those are the places that at this stage that I have that definitely deserve their just desserts.
Without ranting too long before I wrap this up and let you go, what are the chances of seeing Michael Lee at the OPW / MLW show, given that you have given so much props to MLW throughout this episode?
Again, with going back to how Cam's mind works, he's not. I mean this in a very positive way. He's not a wrestling person. He's a sports executive. And he works on a different frequency. So at this stage, I don't know. I am absolutely poking and prodding him in the politest way possible to try and make that moment happen again, which I've got lovely feedback from him. I got an email from him just yesterday saying thank you he finally watched it all back, and he mentioned the tag match with the prayer as one of his highlight moments for the show. So there's a definite possibility. It's something that I'm working towards, but even if that doesn't happen again, you'll probably hear my name somewhere down the line.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate you jumping on again. And I dare say with the amount of stories you have, we'll get this on again. But I just kind of, again, I'm sorry that it just took so long to do this, but I feel like we've actually gotten a lot out of this hour.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
But I appreciate you, man. We'll let you go, but thank you so much. And I'll just get you to send me all the info for tickets for NHPW and all that. But thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
I definitely will, guys. Thanks for the chat.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the fly, I'm going to add in that intro that you guys heard just before this conversation, the people's announcer, Michael Lee. I didn't mean to talk. It was meant to be you did it. I did the woo, the soundboard, and then I was going to hit the thing, but I popped out loud, and I could have just trimmed it out so it did transition more smoother. But this is a cut reproduction. No, it just popped me. So I thought the fact that it was an organic pop, I left it in there. But literally, as we were about to hit record here, you just said something. I'm like, no, you're going to repeat this now. The people's announcer, you said the reason you said that was...
I feel like he's getting that rock status now, rubbing elbows with all, the popular people and stuff, and I'm like, he can riff pretty good on the mic, so he's the people's announcer,
and
right?
Something I did make a comparison is that Michael Lee is arguably, and you heard it here in this conversation, one-man show, basically, one-man army when it comes to the AWC on top of everything he did. He is essentially the Rock of Australian wrestling. And I don't mean, he's the comparison of the Rock as a person, which that's the comparison you made. He's a very busy man, and I can see that. Yeah, but no, he is the Rock in terms of the physical Rock, the metaphorical Rock that is holding the foundation for Australian professional wrestling right now. And I know that might sound like a bold claim, but, I'm just a mark with a microphone. I'm the dude that, half-ass has his foot in the professional wrestling bubble, but no, 100%. That's, again, like, this is the feedback that you got here. And Michael Lee, I literally, as I'm recording this intro and outro, I've just, messaged him about getting his thumbnail art and yada, 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 all the, the little minor stuff that just helps accentuate it. And he did just tell me that this is one of his favorite interviews that he's ever done. And he was very humbled and grateful to be able to hit you with those little nuggets of wisdom throughout. So no, as I said in the intro, like, although, I do, haha, that's my juvenile brain laughing at that. But like, even as a commentator, a play-by-play commentator for ICW, every now and then I'll be the one doing the ring announcing as well. So I'm like, although I don't do it that often, I take it. But as I said, even with my commentary, there was a few things he said there that I'm like, hey, I can take this and I can move this. And this is what I love about this podcast. And as I said here, like, again, I'm not trying to get fish for compliments and be people like, oh, you're really great. No, I don't really hold any stock in my ability as a professional wrestler. I'm aware of my ability to be a great worker in terms of working a room and feeling a crowd and yada, yada, yada. But there's so many things here that I'm just like, you never stop learning. And I truly like appreciate it. And just like, I just really think, and I just wish that I have in my time, the point I'm trying to make here is in my time as a wrestler, I had so many, and again, we're using air quotes on an audio podcast as I do so often, but I had so many veterans telling me that, oh, you're shit, you should quit the business. And then when I arc up, it's, you need to learn to take constructive criticism. How in the fuck is that constructive? Whereas no, Michael said, look, for example, you do use the cue cards currently, because of your frugal bit of bar. Like, eventually you might even get to a point where you don't need to. So, but even he was saying, hey, look, just kind of, it's fine to have the cue cards, but the little, just make sure you can bang, right? And that's, it's a very,
so simple.
It's such a subtle thing, but but again, and as we said with the Pereira thing that you pointed out that we watched, it literally was like he was making contact with the hard cam, thus making eye contact with the audience. But there was just that little bit in the peripherals, and because he wears glasses as well, there almost was a literal glint of light where it's like there was literally that side eye of eye contact, and just on the fly they amped it up. And as you did with Savannah Rowe, where she was kind of talking, and you're just like, that smart-ass comment came from, and you're like, as you said, and as I put you on blast, basically put you on the spot live on a pod episode where you were beating yourself up because you butchered your delivery of that. But I feel like the way that you transitioned into that, although maybe not quite on the level of Michael and the Pereira just yet, because it's a great trio we have there. And I next time that Michael gets the pleasure to announce them, whether they're in Perth or Michael travels elsewhere, I can't wait to see footage from that, just to see if he can, top himself. But just those little bits and bobs of interacting, and I feel like you're, in already your second show, you're doing a great job. But no, this isn't about us, but we're very grateful for, again, maybe it's a little bit selfish of us, but I did help Mrs Crossfire with her questions, and I said, no, you have to ask Michael Lee. Like, you've got to basically seize the day, take this opportunity, and I'm glad you did, and I thank even on your behalf, thank Michael for being so gracious, because again, like, we're going in circles, you don't want to rant too long. The intro went for 5 minutes, but just, we're very grateful for everything that he imparted on us here. But if you want to quickly just repeat the song and match of the week, and then I can go into the plugs and the bits and the bobs, and we can make like a pigeon and get the flock out of here, because it's 20 to 11 as we're recording this here in New South Wales, this outro. But yeah, it's 28th of May. This is dropping on the 9th of June. Hit us with the song and match of the week, and I'll try and think of the plugs for the events. And
alrighty. So the song of the week is Afterglow by In Heart's Wake, and the match of the week is Tommy Knight versus Shelton Benjamin at the Bret Hart's Australian Stampede, May 2024.
And I think I botched that, because I think it was actually April, but I've written May, and I said it in the intro as well.
Oh,
it was April.
Shit.
No. It says May in the note that I've got written. It happened in April, but it was uploaded to Stream Horizon, which I was meant to plug in the intro. And we did plug in the conversation here. It was uploaded on the 7th of May to Stream Horizon, and they've only just kind of, well, that's the day that it says anyway, and they've only just today announce the partnership and da-da-da-da. But it says it's been on the system since May 7th, but the actual event was April. So that's a botch on my behalf. But anyway.
April 2024.
But yeah, I'll have to change it in my notes going forward just for, just for my peace of mind.
Reference.
But like, Stream Horizon, guys, I am not affiliated with these guys in any way. I'm not affiliated with OPW in any way, despite the fact that I did get to interview Cam. And again, not meant to be a cheap plug, but Michael brought it up in the conversation. Go back and listen to that. But just seriously, it is free. All you got to do is put in your email address. You can choose what cookies you do or don't, Not the good kind of cookies, the internets, the interwebs cookies. I've gone in and I've unclicked all the boxes and I said, give me only the necessary cookies. Just, But literally...
I'm watching my figure.
Cookie. But no, literally, your email address and a password, you will get the account. All of OPW shows that have happened so far, so those two, the Her show and the Stampede show are there. And... the Impact Wrestling shows, which we touched on, which you and I went to, and we're actually going to be doing an episode at some point, because we're coming up on a year of that happening. Both Impact Productions are on there for free. The Australian showcase that happened after that are also on there for free. So all 5 OPW affiliated shows are on there. The OPW and MLW show that's happening in August will eventually be on there. And MLW is now... the Stream Horizon are now the official Australian partner of MLW. Now, I don't even know if they're still doing weeklies because we've kind of been going in and out. But all of their, I guess, premium live events is what WWE is calling them. But all of their special events, like pay-per-views for lack of a better term, they're all on there for free as well. And if you want to spend a bit of money, MCW, Melbourne City Wrestling, has, I don't know if it's their entire library, but a massive chunk of the recent years, and they're about $10 each to buy, to keep. And then even, for example, and I'm not trying to shield, I'm not trying to rant on, but they had MCW High Stakes from 2024, which was $10, and then obviously 2023 was $10. They had a bundle for both last year's High Stakes and this year's High Stakes show for $15. Like if you pay for that, it's yours. It's there on the Stream Horizon site to watch. And if I don't know if it's still going to be there by the time this goes out, because it is coming in a couple of weeks. I'm assuming it's still going to be, because there's a pre-order deal right now where the MCW Ballroom Brawl is only $4.99 if you pre-order it, as opposed to the $14.99. Like that's, like, again, I'm not affiliated with any of these people, but seeing all this free content be available, especially for Australia, is nuts. But even affordable, like you and I were kind of skimming through the website before we started talking to Michael Lee here, and I just seriously, get a Stream Horizon account. Like that's my TED Talk for the day. But as I said, this is dropping on the 9th of June. So as of right now, the only events that I do have the links to currently that I have are 15th of June. We have ICW Chill Factor at the Belconnen Community Centre. That will be linked. Michael did mention the NHPW event on the 22nd of June. I will do my best to find the link for that. And I'm not sure if the July 27th show featuring Colby actually has tickets on sale just yet, but if the link is there, it'll be there. And of course, coming up, I don't have any MXW dates just yet, but keep an eye to them, because I am technically a member of MXW staff. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. I'll hopefully make a show eventually. And of course, Extreme Capital Wrestling, they have announced November 23rd. So, 6 months-ish. Hopefully by the time, eventually, whenever the link for that goes on sale, if I've already pre-recorded an episode, I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit the description before that drops, so it should be there. But the big one for me, I'm personally trying to promote, and obviously, as I said, the 2 Perth ones, I'll try and grab the links for those, but the Emma Butler Memorial Show, October 26th, actually tonight as we record this, Squared Circle Supplies, of course, affiliated with Royal Label Titles. They're both run by Ads, who will also, depending on how life goes, I'm meant to be actually interviewing him next Monday as I record this, so it could even be the week after this. It could be him on the episode for episode 110, but before I make any promises that I can't keep. But I with my Crossfire graphics stuff, which is why this is leading into my plugs with the link tree with the Amazon wishlist and the Pro Relation tees, but there's the podcast page and Facebook page and the graphics page. As part of Crossfire Graphics, I got the honor to revamp the original sketch that they had for the first Emma Butler Memorial Show to make the official logo for Emma Butler's tongue cancer charity, which will be going on like all the posters and like the programs, and they're making shirts and all the stuff. But ICW Central West High Octane, with his brand new ring that he's just had made, Squared Circle Supplies, I should say. You'll get a nice surprise if you order from them. Because you'll be like, oh my God, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be that good. So that is a nice surprise. But no, they've just it's got the ICW Central West logo on there, and I think it's actually the one which, it's still the original logo, but I think it's actually the one that I I revamped that slightly as well, just to make it a little bit more high definition, just because as the years go, files dwindle and yada, yada, yada. But I'm ranting, and I really didn't fucking want to, but the Emma Butler charity, I was very, very, very honoured to have been able to revamp that, and they've put that on the ring skirts for this show and all of ICW Central West's shows going forward with the brand new ring. I couldn't, I'm just getting all flustered here because I'm trying not to get emotional, because it's been a hectic night for us family-wise as we record this, but yeah, just go check out all of that, all of the links for the merch, the Amazon wishlist, but especially all of the ticket links to all of the different companies. And of course, when I put Michael Lee's, I'll put just his and NHPW's in the link specifically, but everyone that he has mentioned, go out of your way to try and find, but get that Stream Motion account, and thanks to Michael for coming on. I feel like we've ranted for way too long. I'm really sorry, but we still kept it under an hour and a half. So even with me ranting like a son of a bitch, but no, do you have anything you have to plug?
I have Instagram. It is the Nova Lee.
At the underscore Nova underscore Lee, which is linked underneath the link tree in the description for the social media and the merch.
There.
But yeah, actually, I mean,
give us a follow.
I have kind of put you on the spot with what if it's cool as well, so I'll do it here. TLC Graphics, you've actually uploaded 2 things to that Instagram account.
Oh yeah, they're old as hell.
I don't know if I'll get around to linking that as well, but just go find.
I don't really do it much, so it's fine.
It's just more of a little hobby here and there. But no, thank you, Michael Lee, for coming on, and I'm sorry it took a year and a half, if not longer, but I think it's about a year and a half of, hey, yeah, I'm going to talk to you next week, and I'm going to talk to you, and he was just so patient with me, and with life and health and everything, but hey, we kept it under an hour and a half, even with the ranting.
I was going to say, it's going to be probably a year and a half by the time we finish this outro.
But yes, I am the essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
You guys were just caught
in conversation. Shaka-laka-laka.
Yada, yada, yada.